Welcome. This is the first of hopefully a very long series. We're going to talk about the first 180 days in disability. My name's Charles. I'm from Hearth. I'm a PBS practitioner. And I guess the goal of this is to get people in to talk about their first 180 days in disability, some of the things they learnt, and maybe give some advice to anyone considering going into this career, some things to look for, some things to look out for. And we thought for the first episode, why not talk to two people in the team with me, and two people I have a lot of respect and admiration for in the team. So we've got Sian and Gobi in today to talk about their experience working in disability, their understandings of positive behaviour support, what that looks like and sounds like. They're very similar experiences getting into the industry, but also how it looks quite different, decades apart.
I'm Gobi Chandran. I'm a senior practitioner with Hearth in PBS. Well, my first 180 days when I first started in 1982 was you're working here and off you go. So I didn't know anything about what I should be doing. So I was in accommodation. How am I supposed to support a person with disability, disability? Then fast forwarding to 2001, my first 180 days in PBS practitioner was watching a lot of videos and basically I had to ask lots of questions. What does it look like, sound like? How do I practice? How do I engage with humans? How do I interact with families? I had lots of questions, but not many people to support me through it. But what I want to see with the 180 days with the new graduates coming on is that they won't be left alone. They'll be mentored, supported, clinical supervision from the day they walked in to at least 180 days and beyond. And it'll be specifically based on their ability of understanding theory. And the most important is practice.
I mean, Sian, that's why I wanted to have you and Gobi on together, is because same role, similar expertise, but started a lot later than Gobi, similar support work background. But did you want to talk a bit about, I guess, what starting was like for you and your 180 days?
Yeah, it was intense. NDIS is a bit of a minefield.
Yeah.
But similar to Gobi though, I was also just kind of thrown in the deep end at my first PBS job. I was just literally showed the NDIS templates for a comprehensive and an interim. I was like, just look at these, read
and
them,
just fill them in,
and then do it. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, wow.
I was like, yeah, no worries. I was like, I can do that. Turns out you can't. Need a lot more than that. But yeah, so my first 180 days were pretty hectic in PBS, but it was a lot of learning but I didn't have anyone to teach me. I had to do it all myself. So I just had to Google everything and basically utilize the NDIS website, and that's it. But my first 180 days at Hearth were very different. Coming in with more than, at least doing the job for more than a year, I knew some stuff, but I was also very surprised at a lot of things I still didn't know as well, which is so normal in NDIS. NDIS changes all the time. PBS changes all the time. It is so normal to kind of move around and then figure out that you did not know as much as you thought you did.
Yeah.
It's very, very normal. But no, my first 180 days here were pretty good because, one, I had supervision. So I had someone actually teaching me stuff, and I had someone to ask questions when I didn't know anything. Yeah, but I still had to learn a lot from what my previous job didn't give me. So I had to relearn some things as well, which was hard, but easy at the same time because I had a good team and I had supervision, so that was good. Yeah, and coming from a support work background for NDIS is a lot easier than coming from no NDIS background, but because it is a difficult space to manage sometimes, but still good, very rewarding.
Yeah, I think, I mean, we've all come from a similar support work start and kind of direct support work.
Yeah,
and I
you
think
need
a lot of
basic communication.
Yeah, the soft skills that you learn there and the getting comfortable with people is something
getting comfortable with people, but getting comfortable with people with disabilities as well.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people aren't comfortable in that space, and you learn that very quickly working in this job, which is surprising sometimes, but you have to be a particular type of person to work. You have to be very compassionate, very empathetic. You have to have a lot of patience, like a whole lot of patience, and not just for the participant, but for everyone else in their life too, as we have all come to learn at some stage or another.
Yep.
It's not just the participant we deal with or that we work with. It's their family and their friends and their support network too, and other professionals as well who might do things differently. But I think the biggest thing I've learned is that all behavior is a form of communication, though. It is, everything is telling you something. Whether or not you figured it out or not is besides the point. It's still telling you something. Yeah. And that you can't do this job on your own. You can't. You physically cannot. You would not survive doing this job without a team.
And that's the crucial thing. Sian, you picked a great points to discuss, is that you're building relationship, a safe, sound relationship, which is based on practice.
When you think about PBS, what is the role? How would you describe the role?
Everyone's heard about it now, but no one actually knows what it is, because it's become a very popular part of NDIS too, because I think it's more widespread now. And NDIS is recognizing that it's useful.
For me, the core business is understanding the person from medically, psychologically, cognitively, the way their environment, school, families, workplace, homes interact with them. And the side effect of that is the behavior.
Yeah.
What they're telling me, you're not getting me, I'm getting frustrated. But the other aspect is actually understanding the capacity of the environment to actually implement the intervention plan we're putting across. So when we do so if you look at the core business, is actually a big body of work just to get, like we used to call it the hourglass. So the top part is all the information, the biological factors, how the person tick, how the person think, social, psychos, model, biopsychosocial. And the middle bit is the analysis, which is all the information will tell you a story in each paragraph, comes to a conclusion of this is what might look like as a hypothesis. Because the only person who knows the food answer is the person himself.
Yeah.
And then the other part of the hourglass is the intervention plan. Now, the core business is I always say this, selling ice to an Eskimo. All right? So the Eskimo doesn't need ice. So what it is that people are in a situation where they're actually burnt out, or they're getting, so if you look at that, it's a complexity.
Yeah.
It's not the person's behavior, it's the thing around them. So PBS, I guess my age it is, used to be called IABA, Institute of Applied Behavior Analysis, Lavinia and Willis. Now, what happened was that NDIS recognized having this framework gives a positive outcome with a measurable ability to outcomes.
Yeah.
So that's where they went, let's go back to behavior support team, behavior interventions services, specialized services, all that stuff. But actually what it is the framework.
The key part that I think I've learned that can be the hard part is exactly what you said of that hourglass of finding solutions that actually match a person and understanding a person. Because if you don't understand them, you're just throwing, strategies at a wall and hoping that it works. And I've got a lot of clients that I've come in and said, what's your experience been like in the past with PBS? And there'll be, an 18-year-old guy who loves going out and, playing games and someone brought in a colorful schedule that he could color in his smiley faces on with little sheep on it. And he thought it was so unbelievable that they would think he would do that. And they were offended that they thought he was a kid. And I said, how many times have you seen them? And, they were there twice. And so I've learnt that a lot of PBS can look very differently depending on who's doing it and depending on what organization someone's working at. But I think the key is for good PBS, I guess, is what we're talking about now, is, understanding that person and helping everyone understand that can take time. And you're not going to come in a week and say, let's do this.
And
that's a big thing.
Yeah,
it takes
and
time.
Sian, you gave a good example with the young fella we talked about. And, the thing we also do is advocacy.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We are an advocating voice as well on behalf of participants, for whether that's with NDIS or government services or even just family as well.
And I guess the other daunting thing for me was very simple. Interfacing with specialized services like, the pediatricians, the specialist people where they think who are you asking me these questions?
Yeah.
So
And I think that's something that definitely is really tough and was definitely tough for me in your first 180 days is people either viewing you like you're the be all and end all and you are the specialist and you have all that responsibility, or people viewing you as, who are you? Why are you here?
Yeah.
I'm doing my job. Why are you stepping in the way? And you have to find that balance of, being the responsible specialist who's making recommendations and, accepting that you're working with other people and some people aren't going to like you. And a lot of people aren't going to like some of these conversations you have, especially around, when advocating. And that's something that I wasn't super aware was such a big part of this role when I first started doing it. And now I'm so thankful that it is, because it's something that I always really loved about disability in general. But psychology is helping people. And a big part of it is advocating for them, because a lot of people sometimes can't or won't, or for whatever reason, struggling to advocate for themselves. And being able to come in and say, hey, I'm here for you is, a part of the job that I really love. And I think something that, I don't know, do you guys think that's a learned skill? Do you think that's something that people can come in day one and have that desire? Or do you think that's something you have to learn?
I think the actual doing part of it is something that you learn, as in how to advocate for someone and like the skills surrounding that. But I personally think it's something that you just have, or at least I did.
Well, I guess if someone really hates conflict, should they go into PBS is the question.
You do have to, you can have that desire for advocacy and that want and that need to be like, I want to help people, I want to advocate for people, but still need to work on the skills. That part's fine, because I needed to work on my skills. I was terrible at speaking up for myself and other people, but I've had to learn that over time. But the desire was always there. So I feel like you have to have the need, or the want and the need and the passion for it. But the learning of the skills can take time, because it is tricky sometimes. It's hard to advocate on behalf of other people as well, particularly with like government and NDIS services. It can be very very intimidating.
it is. But one thing I love about PBS is you're basing your support advocacy on evidence,
Yes.
Yeah.
on the person's voice or behavioral information, scales, all that. So it's evidence-based. So actually you're talking through not a hearsay thing. It's based on evidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you, especially with staff group, when you reflect with their behavior data, and they will say, oh, but hang on, that's the information you guys have provided me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't make it up. Sian, how do you think you build up confidence, just starting out in a role, first few days in the door, feeling a bit insecure, feeling a bit like, I don't know, imposter syndrome? How do you build up that confidence?
I still have that. I still have imposter syndrome. Practice. Honestly, time and practice, and asking a lot of questions. A lot. But also having someone to ask those questions with, that you feel comfortable asking questions with, is important. And if you do have that person at a job, that's great. Asking questions. I ask everyone questions all of the time. I email the NDIS and ask questions all of the time. I annoy the Vic Senior Prac. I ask questions all of the time. I don't stop asking questions, because this is not a job that you finish learning in. It's not an area that you finish learning in. You don't just suddenly get to a point where you know everything and can't learn anymore. It doesn't work that way. No matter what level experience you have, you can be the most advanced practitioner, and one day you'll learn something super basic. It doesn't matter. It's not a job that you'll finish building skills in. You can't just have everything. Lots of time, lots of practice, and asking lots of questions. Never stop asking questions.
Yeah, I mean, asking questions I think is, essential. And if you're not going to ask questions, you're not going to get very far in this role, I think. Gobi, someone who's done it for a very long time and asked a lot of questions in his time. I guess what are good questions to ask? I guess professionally, and then aside from looks like, sounds like, what are good questions to ask when you go out there and you're doing your assessment, and things maybe that people might want to ask but maybe don't think of, or
So basically, my first meeting with a family is actually introduce yourself, look at your background, what you're there for, and you let the family talk. Let them vent. And then I'll ask the question is, if I had a magic wand, And if I can use that magic wand, here it goes again. What's it look like, sound like? Because when you ask that question, you get a lot of, this is where my problem is, this is my issues, this is my concern. Now, with a person who a graduate, a new staff member, they're not going to go by themselves the first day. They'll be with me. And what we'll do is that I'll do a couple of sessions and they will take the second session, bits and bits. And conversation around how does it feel for you when you ask that question? Did you feel threatened? Did you feel anxiety? What is it for you? How did you feel about it? So it's a joint journey, then a slow separation from that. So unfortunately for us, I mean, like the PBS the world we're in and the urgency, we sometimes run without actually taking a deep breath.
Yeah.
You might have a plan in place that, I've got so many questions to ask, and the question could be personal or whatever. But then things happen in the house where you couldn't even ask one question.
Yeah.
But actually, you get lots of information just observing. So we kind of, so I always say there's different ways to get information. But asking question is being respectful. Give the person time to express.
Yeah.
Validate what they said by you repeating back to them. This is what you mean. This is what you said. So they understand that you actually heard them and actually understood them. And that could take an hour for a person with disability.
Yeah.
But it's no time frame.
I think on that too is when you interact with participants too, I would not overthink. I wouldn't even think about being like quote unquote professional. I am like the most casual version of myself when I interact with participants and family because they don't, or at least I wouldn't. I would, and that is a part of me just assuming. But so far, it's worked out pretty well. I think I developed a pretty good rapport with my participants just by being very casual and very myself, and not have like that air of like professionalism, I guess. Obviously, with reports and emails and things like that, to government bodies are the professional side of our job. But the actual face-to-face interaction is, I think, being as casual as possible and just as open as possible is the best way to go.
I think that's a really good way to put it. And it's a really interesting topic for me, again, thinking about the 180 days and thinking about where I am now, when I first walked through the door. And professionalism is something I think about a lot. And I think I've learned from both of you quite a bit about professionalism and that, you can be a specialist and you can be a human being. And you're not in there with your lab coat on, dictating scientific behavioral theories or anything. It's connecting with people. And I think you both have a really lovely charm and way about you of connecting with people as a person. And I think, if I went back to myself walking through day one, I'd definitely say, stop standing so tall, joke, be nice with people and be friendly and just get to know people.
A lot of this time, this job does not require you to be a professional. It requires you to be a human being.
Yeah.
It is incredibly important to just be a human being.
And don't get offended with whatever you say. It's nothing personal.
Yeah.
It's nothing personal. They're just giving you a viewpoint. I've asked questions. Is it okay for a black man to work with you? Or someone asked me, oh, what do you look like? I told them literally what I look like. And they just laughed. Or they say, what's a Gobi? Well, Google it. You know what I mean?
What's a Gobi?
Yeah, they've asked, what's a Gobi? I said, it's GOBI. I'm sure black fella, if it's cold, I wear a beanie. If not, I wear a hat. So being literal sometimes is really good. And you're right. I mean, you need to be a human because you are human. You're not expert of everything. You're a practitioner.
Yeah.
And practitioner, it's bringing a story together. And I guess that's what kept me going this field in PBS is actually I feel I'm privileged to join in the journey.
Yeah.
We're privileged to be invited to someone's home. We're privileged for a participant, even if they said, F off you, I got, that's okay. You're using a adjective to me to move. So always a smile on your face, bring smile to others.
I guess across disability, changing topics a bit, workload is something that comes up quite a bit. I've talked to some friends who don't work in disability but have considered it, talking about, oh my God, you do. I think it's a little bit of that health model of, you do your 12-hour, your 14-hour shifts or whatever. I know it's very different in terms of KPIs and billables and hours across organizations. What do you think broadly the workload looks like in the disability sector? Do you think people are desperately overworked? Do you think,
I guess we're losing touch sometimes. We tend to focus on the person. We tend to lose that focus. I guess that's what I believe in. It's always do I do a report, or when I always have a picture of the person in my head.
Yeah.
So it brings me back to earth.
Yeah.
What's it all about? What's PBS all about? It's about the person, right smack in the middle. That's what brings me back to earth. Yeah, it's a great question, though, Charles. I mean, it's hard to answer because there's different ways that you can answer this question.
I think if you look at now your role now with us at Hearth all together, loving our work, and looking at previous roles, especially because you've done this role for quite a long time, how have you seen workloads change with the introduction of the NDIS, and with going kind of the public-private mix?
With Hearth, I think we're going the right direction in the sense of there's a mixture of professional development and what's billable. Because other companies I worked, their billable was 80%. So professional development was not there.
Yeah.
Or you have to make it up. But that's where the issue with being private and public system.
Yeah.
However, what I'm looking forward to in my job here and now in Hearth is the excitement of, hang on, we're going to create the next generation of practitioners, or health workers, which all of influence. Charles, Sian, Emil, and myself, all are influenced to a group of people. From the old funny daddy to the young ones. I mean, to me, that's exciting.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard.
Yeah.
It's going to be stressful, for everyone. It's going to be stressful because they're trying to work to a competency. And people need to look at that as not a criteria, but a journey that can be achieved.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the difference with Hearth, with the way I'm thinking, you guys are thinking, you're not alone. We're always together.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think yes and no. I think that it is really easy to be overworked in this industry. I think it is really easy for people to burn out in this industry and in the healthcare industry as a whole. Obviously, since COVID, we've seen the healthcare industry has taken an absolute topple with burnout rates and like resignations and things like that. I think it is incredibly easy to burn out in this type of role, but that's where I guess, like as Gobi said, that's where a good team comes in, and that's where good time management comes in, and the ability to speak up for yourself and say no. That's a big one that people get way too scared to do. And like talking about caseloads and things like that and workload, I know Hearth, we do 60%, which is the lowest I've ever done, which I think is good, which even sometimes, depending on the week you have, can be hard. But like I've had a job before where the billables were 100%, so I did nothing but client-faced work and I had no supervision, no PD, nothing. So coming from that to this is fantastic. But you do need to be able to manage your own time and set realistic standards and make sure that you have time for yourself as well, because this industry can be very taxing. It can be very taxing on one's mental health. It can be difficult to like deal face to face with people who've had a lot of trauma and to listen to those stories and to be able to process it yourself and make space for your own feelings as well. But it's worth it though. It's very worth it. You just have to learn some skills in some mental health management.
You're right. It's called vicarious trauma.
Yeah.
It's called vicarious trauma because when you start living someone else's trauma,
Yeah.
it doesn't. But I keep things, look like something. I keep things simple as possible. Like even the person right in the middle with the client or participant says hello to you. I go, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keep things
Or mum
positive.
and dad going, would you like a coffee? It was never offered before. I went, oh, yes.
Yes.
The little things. And then it
Oh, of
builds up.
course.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I'm sure you guys got examples like that. Even how short you've been, 6 months, Charles, and you, Sian.
Yeah.
Share that experience because that's the endorphin I get.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely, 100%. And again, it also comes down to having a good team as well and a
Yes.
good supervisor. Because if you don't have someone that you can bring concerns to or lean on in this industry, then you can't do it. At least that you just can't. So if you don't have a good team as well, or if the environment's not working out for you, you can't do the job either because you need a good team.
Yeah. I think they're both really good tips. They really
always
resonate
told-
with me. I
Sounds like
have
a
struggled
great
sometimes with
job.
burnout, and I struggle with saying no sometimes. But I think the small wins, Gobi, is definitely something that I've become a lot more mindful of. It is nice when I get a text message from one of my clients, you know, even if they're in crisis, I feel terrible for them, but it's nice that they're reaching out to me. It's a nice feeling to be there for someone and that they trust you. And that shows that, your work is useful and it is helping someone.
The only trap is that of that feeling, you need to turn the phone off when you finish work.
Yeah, boundaries.
And then
Boundaries.
boundaries is the thing, because sometimes it becomes the system rely on you more than the person.
Yeah.
So it becomes a crisis. So that's another thing that, like you're saying, Sian, and you said that, Charles, and you said beautifully, we both, is the boundaries. We need to give ourselves permission to do it. And Sian, you're right. The supervision is so important that they understand, validate, and support what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we were lucky with me, Megan.
We were.
I guess, supervision more broadly, it kind of shocks me, Sian, that you didn't get any, you said. I kind of assumed, I guess it shows how ignorant I am of the sector. I kind of assumed everyone had supervision, but across the sector, what do you guys know about what should people expect, I guess, in the first 180 days going in somewhere supervision?
In the grad program?
Both at Hearth and, more broadly, if they're not coming to Hearth, they're not lucky enough, what should they be expecting?
Well, my thing is minimum supervision wise is weekly, but then with the first a month or so, it's actually when you're in contact with the person, the student or the grad or the even a new employee who has done PBS before. It's that physical contact or the communicative contact to set them up to success. And that's one, but the other one is actually no question is a stupid question.
Yeah, having supervision is good. It's a requirement, actually.
Yeah,
and that's not something I knew until I got to this job. A whole year without supervision as a PBS practitioner, just learning on my own.
So my record has been 3 years.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
3.5 years. I was working for a government job, by the way.
Yeah.
No supervision for 3 years.
No supervision, 3 years.
No,
You were that good.
No, there was no one to supervise. Everyone was leaving.
Yeah, I had like informal peer supervision, but that's it. Like not actual proper clinical supervision, which is a requirement, and you should have it at minimum weekly. But also that with the grads and stuff, like you would require a lot more contact initially for the first 180 days, like for the first little while until you're confident enough to kind of minimize contact, but just have supervision.
Do you think supervision is something that people should put a pretty firm line in the sand about if they're looking at jobs or looking at roles, to say, if I'm not getting weekly supervision or at least fortnightly supervision, then it's not for me?
100%.
Oh, if you're a graduate, it's a must. It's a given.
Yeah,
Because it's like
100%.
my learnings from my background, the way I was supported. Yeah. And you're not asking for much.
No, I'm pretty sure it's also a requirement in the framework too, with the competencies or core, proficient, and advanced.
It doesn't really stipulate whether it should be weekly or whatever, but it says intense.
Yeah.
Oh, no, but like supervision in general is a requirement. So if the job's not offering it at all, then do not take that job. Don't take it. It should be like, minimum fortnightly supervision.
Yeah, I think, and supervision and getting that relationship with your supervisor, whatever that looks like. I know people work differently and talk differently, and
You should,
but having someone that you can feel very open with, and at times vulnerable, and being honest, and not feeling like, oh my god, I'm going to get in trouble, or oh my god, I should know this.
Yeah.
I think having that really regular contact really helps that. If it's someone you're seeing once a month for an hour, you're not going to really be comfortable going, I made a mistake and I don't know what to do.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a learning curve. It's not a mistake. It's a learning curve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's no right or wrong. Yes, people call it mistake, whatever, but it's a learning curve. I still do mistakes now.
Yeah.
Oh, everyone makes mistakes.
Everyone makes mistakes.
You will make mistakes with the NDIS. It is perfectly happens all the time. Happens every single day.
Yep.
Definitely something to
NDIS
look forward to in your 180 days would be making
You will
mistakes.
make mistakes. It's okay. Yeah.
And reason your interim or your comprehensive behavior support plan is read by someone completely you do not know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And you sort of go, I wonder what their mindset is when they're going to be picking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder how their day has been. So everyone's human.
Yeah.
So I guess once you've written your plans and you've had your supervision and you've worked in your team and you've turned your phone off and gone home because you have good work-life balance and boundaries, and you're laying in bed at night, how do you know you're doing a good job? What are your metrics for leaving a day and going, I've done a good job today?
That changes every day.
Oh, look, that's a very good question. Because some days I still think and worry about some people I work for.
Yeah.
It just comes. And those are the days when I go the next day, I'll try my best to talk to someone about it. Because I'm thinking about it. So what I normally do is I debrief. Well, I used to with my partner before she passed away. I used to ring her up and go blah, 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 blah on the way home. And the last thing I would say, hey, what we doing for cooking? Then I start cooking. That's my defragger. And I'll look forward to every Fridays. We have a little cooking dinner and having a red wine.
Nice.
Just defragging, listening to music, throwing ball with a puppy dog. So that's, I've learned over the years, but sometimes I still do. I mean, I guess the passion you bring into your job, and I'm pretty sure you two have gone through in our meal as well, and everyone's done it. Sometimes there's a certain thing that just keeps ticking in your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I always advise, if you have that, talk to someone. As in, supervision, sometimes you can have a chat with someone who is your team member.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's okay.
If you had to give people a piece of advice to walk away after listening to this, what would it be? Would it be that we're not psychologists, we're not therapists, we don't cure people? What would it be?
It would be take care of yourself. Take care of yourself so you can do this job as well. Make sure you have good solid boundaries in this industry, but also a passion for disability is necessary. I think, to do this job.
You're right, Sean. Absolutely. Your passion to do disability, your curiosity to do disability. But the thing is that all the multidisciplinary, like nursing, social work, psychology, speech, OT, are all relevant. That's what we found in PBS. It's all relevant.
Yeah.
But what it is, we're doing a post-grad into behavior support services. And that's what is bring all this information, and it's trying to mash it into a systemic way, bring all disciplines together. So it's not so you're actually jack of all trade, masters of none. You can't cure, but what you're guiding. And I guess that's the exciting part. You're actually guiding, and when there's some of the intervention work, it's like, to me, I can crack a bottle of red. But exciting.
That's a good piece of advice. Drink wine.
No, don't do that. But it's almost the endorphin you get from it. Just on that. So whatever degree you do is relevant to the PBS, but understanding the framework.
Yeah.
And like we just discussed today, it's around the supervision. The team is the most important aspect of anything, because you can be all of Victoria, but you can still be a team through this system we got now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have a good team. That's a good piece of advice.
I think, yeah, and I'll answer my own question about advice. But it would be that. It would be recognizing that PBS is in some ways really specific and in some ways really, really broad. And you don't have to have your master's in psychology to come in here and do a really, really good job. And I think I would tell people, yeah, if you're interested in understanding people and interested in helping people and feel like you have a passion to try and help people, I think you should consider it, would be my advice, because I think it's a really, really cool career, something that I really enjoy doing.
It is.
It's fun. It is
challenging.
It could be crisis. It could be emotional about it. But at the end of the day, it's like you said, helping someone. But it's almost like even someone who makes their own decision. Because if you look, PBS is the framework. We talk about framework. It's human rights, normalization. What's culturally expected. Then we use the science of how we're going to measure. Then we're going to use science. How effective is the intervention? That's the science bit. The rest is human.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll say to anyone, like you said, Charles, if you want to work with humans, who finding different ways to send a message through the behaviors, if you want to make a change in someone's life in small increments, please come on board.